Hi everyone! Today's unboxing video is of Nucleum by Board & Dice. Throughout this video we'll take a close look at all the components and I will give you information on how they work in the game apart from the quality and the looks of them. So let's get straight into that. First of all, the box is quite heavy and quite full of components, as you'll see here right away. And first thing at the top is the rulebook, which is quite a big rulebook, I should say. It has 26 pages together with the indexes as usual with Board & Dice. Let's get a very quick look throughout it. It looks to have the same structure and looks as every other Board & Dice rulebook we've seen so far. Lots of examples, lots of rules as would be expected from such a game. It's quite a heavy game here. And then we have the appendix with all the tiles that are included in the game and all the iconography explained, together with the appendix at the end, which is just about the iconography. Next up, we have a challenges pamphlet right here. It's a single paper and it has some challenges that players can complete. They start from low difficulty and go up to the higher difficulty, as it seems here from the titles. And finally, we have the solo rulebook, which is something that I never read because I never play solo, so I will just show you the pages and hopefully those of you who play solo games can get a glimpse at it and get some information that you might need as far as the size and the structure of it is concerned. Next up, we have a bunch of components here, and I think I'll keep the player components aside for now because it's very hard to explain to you what they do without having the main board or the sideboards with me. So I'll keep even those, I think, and these here just for now. I'll show them later when I can explain some of the rules together with them. We have a bunch of baggies, an insert thingy that I don't think I've ever found any of those useful, but who knows, maybe this one will be the exception. We have a single die here that is only used in the solo game. It seems to be going from 1 up to 4. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have the player aid cards. We have 4 basic player aid cards, as you can see here. It's the actions on one side and the recharge process on the other side. I'll tell you some more about it later. And we have another 4 player aid cards, as you can see here. They are 1 for each of the experiments, and those are sideboards, side player boards that the players get at the beginning of the game, and they introduce an asymmetric aspect to the game. Then we have some other cards here. These ones are the logic cards and are only used in the solo mode. It's the cards that sometimes the bot uses to play against the player. And then we have a bunch of setup cards. Those are used in the multiplayer game to block off some spaces on the map at the beginning of the game to make the setup even more variable. Here we have a sideboard that is placed next to the main board during the game. It has a bunch of elements on it. First off, we have the milestone track right here on the side. I'll leave it like that, I think, so that you can see what I'm talking about. Some tiles will be placed here during setup, and throughout the game, players will be placing milestone markers on the track to get points both during the game and during endgame scoring based on the tiles that will have been placed here. Then we have here a space where action tiles are placed. The whole game is played with action tiles. Players place action tiles on their play boards and on the main board to take actions, and more of them can be purchased through this space here. Here we have a place where contract tiles are placed. There are 3 different types of contract tiles, and you fulfill contracts to gain bonuses and benefits. In this space we have the endgame condition markers, which are, by the way, these markers here. All of them are the same and are placed on these spaces at the beginning of the game. There are 5 different endgame scoring conditions, and when 2 of them are met, or 3 in a 2-player game, the game's end is triggered. So you have those markers here to remember to mark off the endgame conditions that have been met so that you can know how close the actual endgame is. And finally, at the bottom here, we have the place where the milestone markers of the players are placed, which are these ones. They are in the 4 player colors, and 3 of those are placed in these 3 spaces at the beginning of the game. And every time a player recharges, which is like a reset in between action turns, they do all these steps in order, and one of those steps is to take one of those markers and place it on the milestone track according to how many achievement tokens they have acquired. After doing the whole reset, the next player goes. And then we have the main board, which is kind of huge, so I'll take a moment to rearrange everything here. There we go. I couldn't even fit the whole thing within the frame. I'm doing the best I can here with what I have. This is the 1 and 2 player side of the board. I will show you the other side as well. And also, even though the whole game is in English, it seems that we got a board that has the cities in some language that looks like Chinese, but I have no clue what language it is. We got it on the Black Friday sale, so maybe that's why it's like that. I'm just joking. Of course, we'll contact them and probably we'll have a new board coming our way soon. But until then, we'll be fine playing with that. There is no other text within the game that is not in English, so it should be okay to recognize the cities from the cards in some other way. We'll figure it out. So, we have the different cities on the map. Here, different colored cities because there is a color matching element to the game. We have railway links. On those, players place action tiles, I'll show you later, and activate actions and also create networks within the map. They can build buildings on these spaces and turbines here. I will show you the turbine tokens, by the way, right now because they are relevant. These are the turbine tokens, and they can be placed on the map in spaces like those. And throughout the game, to energize their buildings, players will have to transfer coal from the coal mines and, of course, uranium from their own mines to energize their buildings. There will be power plants scattered around the map that can create this type of energy, and if a power plant has one of those tokens on top of it, it means that it can also produce energy from uranium and not just from coal. Back to the box here, but before we see more components, I forgot to say that there is a point track, a victory point track around the main board, and the players track their points through those markers. Each player also has a bunch of workers that are little special meeples with hats, as you can see here. And you need to place those workers on top of the railway tracks that you place on the map to mark that they are yours. There are other uses for the workers as well, but we'll see them right away. We have 4 player boards here that at this stage are identical. This is the main space of the player board. On the side here, there will be additional boards for the 4 experiments that I mentioned earlier. But for now, we have a player board here. These are the spaces where the action tokens are placed. I'll show you later how that works. These are the income tracks, and each player has 3 income markers here that you place and move around the track to mark your income situation. This place will be filled with buildings that you can take out throughout the game, pay the cost and place them on the map. These are the places for your turbines at the beginning of the game, and as you can see here, building turbines costs workers while building buildings costs money. And here is the space for your mines, which also cost workers to build. These spaces here on the side are for the contract tiles to be placed. As soon as you take a new contract, you immediately trigger bonus here, and as soon as you fulfill a contract, you take whatever is on the contract as a benefit. Finally, we have a bunch of punch boards at the bottom of the box here, which I will take out by myself and bring back ready to show you and explain what each one of those does. Everything is punched, everything is ready, we are back. And I will start with the 4 sideboards. These are the 4 different experiments, and they are placed right next to the player board, like so. And then each player has some asymmetric powers. They have some tiles here that are technology tiles. They all start like this, and if you get to activate one of the technologies throughout the game, you slide it inside as a reminder. Each experiment also comes with its own starting action tiles for the player, and it's the first time we see the action tiles. You can see the C is marked for experiment C. They have one action on each side of the tile, one color on each side of the tile for color matching purposes, as I mentioned earlier, and on the back they look like railways, so whenever a railway is complete, you flip it face down as a reminder. You can also see here the worker icon, because every time you place one of those on the map, you place your worker on top as a reminder that it's yours. Action tiles can also be placed at the top of the player board to take both actions. Finally, each one of them comes with a token like this that is placed in this area of your player board, and it is the only tile on the main player board that becomes kind of asymmetrical and depends on the experiment that you took at the beginning of the game. And since we got into the discussion of the action tiles, here are some more that you can purchase throughout the game. Some of them have dots on them and others don't, which I will show you right away. I'm not sure which one of them are more powerful. We haven't played the game just yet, but there is a process throughout the setup that tells you how many of each to place in the piles of available action tiles for purchase throughout the game, depending on the number of players. A couple of simple tokens. It's the first player token, and one token that is placed next to the point track, because one of the conditions that trigger the end game is the first player who reaches 70 points. You have this as a reminder there. Then we have some Rubble tokens for mines, turbines, and buildings. Those are placed during setup to block some spaces for the players. On spaces like those, you cannot build throughout the game. We also have the power plants, which are 3D PCs made of cardboard. There are 4 identical ones and one that is different, because all 4 of those can be upgraded to use uranium for creating energy once a token like this is placed on top of them, while this one is bound to only create energy through coal until the end of the game, no matter what. Speaking of coal, we have some tokens like that indicate the cost of coal throughout the game. The coal starts with the cost of 1 coin per coal, and once someone uses the token, they flip it on the other side, so the cost now becomes 2, and if another or the same player uses it again, it gets removed and reveals a space underneath, which I'll show you right away. Like this, it's on the main board, it's just folded right now. That indicates the 3 cost for the rest of the game, and this is the maximum cost that coal can reach. And now that we are on the subject of cost, we have money on denominations of 1 and 5. Speaking of denominations, we also have achievement tokens in denominations of 1 and 5. These are tokens that you get throughout the game, and you use them, so to speak, you count them when you recharge to see how far up the milestone track you can go. Going up on the milestone track will let you score points at the end of the game for certain conditions and criteria. These are the tokens that are placed in those spaces at the beginning of the game, as I mentioned earlier, next to the milestone track, and there's 8 of them. Next up, we have some extra player pieces that we didn't see at the beginning. These are the mines that you can build on the map, a marker for the 100 and 200 laps around the victory point track, and the buildings that you build on the map. They come in 3 different types: laboratories, factories, and residencies. And since we mentioned the buildings, there are also some neutral buildings that are placed at the beginning of the game on the map, and players can energize those to gain some benefits and get a head start at the beginning of the game, maybe. Finally, we have the contract tiles that come in 4 different types, so to speak. These are the starting contracts. One of them is randomly given to each player at the beginning of the game. Then we have the silver contracts with a silver banner up top, gold ones that are somewhat harder to complete, and finally purple contracts that come in 3 different types, and one of each type is placed on the board at the beginning of the game, and those cannot be taken by the players. They work like public goals. A player can fulfill them without having them on their player board, and once a player fulfills them, they take them off the board and no one else can do that in the future. And that's all. I don't think I forgot anything. I hope I didn't. I hope you found this video useful. We will contact Board and Dice to get a proper board for the game, even though it's not absolutely necessary. Hopefully we'll get one in English soon. If you found this video useful, please leave a thumbs up before you go. Let me know if you have any questions that I didn't answer, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, bye.